ski season, everybody. So as some of you may have already seen it in my previous video, I've sprained my ankle the other day while I was walking down the street in New York City. So I wanted to take this time to focus on recovering my injury and share some of my teas on how I even got injured from the first place, and share some of the tips on what I should have done and what I shouldn't have done while I was injured. And then lastly, I wanted to show some of the exercises that I've been taking to recover from the injury as quickly as possible. So stay tuned if you're on the same boat as me or just curious to see how I've been working on recovering. So just to quickly add a caveat to how I even got injured from the first place, I had my right ankle fractured while I was back in 3rd grade. And ever since then, I've been just used to having my right ankle not as stable as it used to be. And then 3 weeks ago, I was just walking down the street in New York City where the sidewalk was very uneven, and I ended up stepping onto that crack between the two splits where the first one was very elevated and the other one wasn't. So when I stepped onto that middle part, I immediately twisted my ankle and sprained the ligament. But little did I know there are attorneys out there who can help you claim these injuries to the city. And according to the Office of the Comptroller for NYC, an annual claims report indicates that 11% of personal injury claim settlements and judgments were for sidewalk injuries in 2021. That was 2,134 sidewalk personal injuries, claiming cost about $61.7 million. Having said that, I was able to claim that injury to the city and potentially win that claim. So for those of you who are listening, in case you get injured in the public infrastructure, possibly due to poor maintenance of the infrastructure, call the sidewalk attorneys and get that paid for it. But instead for me, I just provided some of the basic first aid treatments for my ankle, which include 4 steps. First one is resting. Second is applying some ice. Third is compressing with some elastic bandage or compression wrap. And the last one is elevate your injured leg. And depends on the severity of your pain, you may either take acetaminophen or ibuprofen painkillers to alleviate the pain. So after I spent about a day or two repeating those 4 steps without going outside, I thought I was fully recovered, so I started going out again. And I think that's when my ligament was just ruptured. No matter how much time I applied the ice pack, I was still able to feel the pain in my ankle. And it was so painful to the point where I thought maybe relaxing my ankle would be helpful to release that pain. So I spent days applying the ice pack while I relaxed my ankle, but turns out that was the biggest mistake I've ever made since the injury. Apparently, you're supposed to keep your ankle at 90 degrees for any of the ligament injuries because relaxing your ankle may stretch your ligaments even further and damage your ankle even more. And on top of that, once you've spent 48 hours using ice pack onto your injury, you're supposed to move from ice pack to a heating pad. So after spending years of spraining my ankle and recovering from it, I had confidence that I know how to take care of my ankle, but I was not even close. So that's when I started to look up some YouTube videos on these medical professionals who know what they're talking about. And as I watched them, I realized so many things that I shouldn't have done while I was injured. So instead of relaxing my ankle, I started wearing that ankle cast boot to keep my ankle folded at 90 degrees. And to help with the blood circulation, I started using hot packs for the injury, and I stayed on to avoid putting pressure onto my ankle. So after several more days, I spent working from home. I don't know if it was the heavy weight of the boot that was just putting a weight on my ankle or the way I put my foot down on the ground, but the pain never went away. So after spending about 1.5 weeks, I decided to go see orthopedic specialist. So when I went to go see the doctor, they took an x-ray of my ankle just to make sure my bone wasn't injured. And after confirming that my x-ray was clear, the doctor examined my ankle. After taking the full examination of my ankle, my doctor gave me a pretty typical diagnosis of sprained ankle, which is the sprain of anterior talofibular ligament and peroneal tendinitis. And he prescribed 4 weeks of physical therapy for my injury. He emphasized that keeping my ankles sturdy with my boot was definitely a good decision, and now that it has been over 2 weeks since I injured my ankle, it's time for me to slowly keep my ankle active. And during my appointment, one of my biggest question was how to keep my leg while I was sitting down for hours working from home. And he told me that the pain was probably from not moving my ankle at all. He said while I stayed at my desk for hours throughout the day, not moving my ankle at all was probably stiffening my ankle and caused that pain. So by going to these physical therapies and keeping my foot in motion, it should help me with my recovery. So ever since then, while I was working, I've been just keeping my foot moving all the time, moving my toes, trying to spread out the toes even. And if there's no pain, you can also start pulling outwards. And that surprisingly helped me to alleviate the pain immediately, and I've been actually able to see the results from it. And in addition, these are some of the new activities that I just added to my routine. One of the activities is to use this rubber ball and just roll it with the bottom of your foot. And the second activity is to slowly and softly grab these little toys with your toes. So that just summarized the whole recovery journey for me. And here's a quick recap. First, when you get injured, don't forget to call your sidewalk attorney and get that money. Second, don't forget to apply the RICE regimen: resting, applying ice, compressing, and elevating your injured leg. And third, just because you think you are recovered, do not ever fully go back to normal routine, but instead try to keep your ankle in 90 degrees to make sure your ligaments are healed. And once you start to feel better and don't think your ankle is swollen, try applying some hot packs instead. And lastly, don't forget to keep your foot in motion, but know your limit. But most of all, try to take the advices from the actual medical professionals with a grain of salt. Hopefully this helps you with this sprained ankle.